the R&R Mama Show. I'm your host, Andrea Fallon, midwife, child health nurse, NDC practitioner, holistic sleep coach, and mum of two. And today I'm going to talk to you about wake windows and why watching wake windows can make sleep worse for a lot of babies. Let's dive in. Feel free to write any questions in the comments below and I will answer them either now or I will come back to them. I like my videos to be interactive, so do feel free to ask me any questions. And I guess before I get started and dive into it too much, I think it's just important to note that this is not like a rule type video. This is not like a should or shouldn't do type video. I think there's enough of that out there. There's enough of the rules, there's enough of the shoulds. So I'm not coming down with a heavy hand of judgment or anything like that if you track wake windows. And look, it is one of the strategies out there that is, gentle. It's not cried out. It's not any remote version of cried out. So in that way, I understand absolutely why people are drawn to that strategy. But today I'm going to go into why I often see that it makes sleep worse and also can ramp up mum's stress and anxiety around sleep because it has you doing a lot of clock watching. Obviously, you've got to be looking at the clock all day long, and that can really make anxiety quite worse. It worsens anxiety. Cool. So let's get started with talking about why wake windows really don't have any sort of grounding in science or research, why they're not really a thing. First of all, the first reason is that, well, let's define wake windows in case anyone doesn't know. Wake windows are the idea that you track how long your baby has been awake to work out when they might go down for a nap, with the idea being that if you get them down at the ideal time, then you're going to avoid overtiredness or undertiredness. And so the idea is that you kind of basically meet this magic window of sleep for your baby, and that will help improve nighttime sleep. Now, yes, so we'll go into why this isn't really scientifically correct. So when it comes to sleep, babies have a very huge range in what's normal for how much sleep they need across 24 hours. Huge individual variation. Unlike adults where the normal variation is quite small, within a few hours is sort of the normal range, like your 7 to 10 hours is kind of like the fairly normal range of adult sleep needs. Babies, it's anywhere from 10 hours in a 24-hour period up to 18 hours in a 24-hour period. Some people even say a bit more than that, but in the first year, 4 months to 12 months, it sits around there. So there's this huge variation in normal, and it's like a bell curve, and most sit in the middle. The average, are in the middle. So the idea of wake windows then is all based around the average sleep needs. And as I said, the research shows that this variation of normal is within like that first year of 4 months to 12 months. But what you'll see online is often wake windows based on age in terms of months, like 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. This is what's normal for their age. So first and foremost, that doesn't really work out because there is no average sleep needs based on age not quite that way defined, if you get what I mean. Like the variation is big and it's over like that whole first year. So that's the first thing. So huge variation in sleep needs. So basically, if you're trying to follow wake windows, it's going to be calculated on your little one's age and that being average, what they're saying is average sleep needs for that age. So if your baby doesn't fit into that average that they've calculated these wake windows on, then you're going to struggle. It's kind of like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like your baby, that's not what their sleep needs are. So this whole pattern is just not going to suit them. And secondly, babies there's a huge individual variation in how well babies tolerate sleep pressure. Now, I'll get to sleep pressure and what it is in a minute, but basically what's happening is that you're, following something that's based on their age, this idea that they should be awake for a certain amount of time really doesn't take into account any of these sort of individual variations that are out there. And kind of based on inaccurate data anyway, because we know of that, sleep needs over the 12 months rather than like 4 months, 6 months, broken up that way. I just want to highlight this with an example a bit more before I go into more detail about why it disrupts the sleep. So let's just get an example. So if you go onto a website, I'm just trying to find it here. So if you're going onto a website and it says, okay, your baby's 4 months old, their wake window should be 2 hours. So that would work out, that would work out to being about 4 naps a day. And if the naps average, say, an hour each, you would have 4 hours of sleep in the day. So if you basically, with the individual sleep needs, if your little one was on the lower end of the sleep needs, let's say that they're the lowest sleep needs baby and they only need 10 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, and those wake windows that you're tracking and having that sort of usually encouraging resettling as well, and having 4 hours of day sleep, then that's only leaving you with 6 hours of night sleep. So you're going to be in for a pretty rough night if your little ones, they've taken so much of their sleep in the day due to these wake windows being so short, and then nighttime's going to be really disturbed. Or that, to be honest, they're probably just not going to even do what the website says, and you're going to really struggle to even get them to do it. But just to give you the idea that when you've got a little one who has a certain amount of sleep that they need, these wake windows, they just can't, you can't fit your baby into them. So coming back to that idea of sleep pressure and how does this all make sleep worse, right? So the sleep is regulated by 2 sleep regulators, the circadian clock and the sleep pressure. Won't talk too much about circadian clock today. Sleep pressure is the one where basically we build, our sleepiness builds up as the day goes on. We're more tired by bedtime, like we're most tired by bedtime, or should be, and then we go to sleep quickly and easily. And if we wake in the night, everyone wakes in the night, but when we wake in the night, we resettle back to sleep nice and quickly. So that's sleep pressure. The purpose of the nap is just to take the edge off, and sleep pressure, as I said, there's so much individual variation in how well we can all tolerate sleep pressure. Some people tolerate sleep pressure very well and actually thrive on having high levels of sleep pressure and can manage absolutely fine if they're feeling tired, that sleep pressure's high, they can still get on and they're okay to get through. And often these people are really busy, and for babies, they're often the babies that love their sensory and they're into everything, and those little ones tolerate sleep pressure well. Other babies, other people don't tolerate sleep pressure so well and will need sleep to take the edge off and to bring the levels in the brain of adenosine, the compound, back down. So wake windows can't in any way, shape or form accommodate for individual sleep pressure, like how well it's managed. And so what happens if you've got a website, like I said, that told you that your baby's wake windows should be 2 hours, and they actually tolerated sleep pressure really well, then they're getting through, they get to the 2-hour mark, it's like, well, I'm not tired, I'm not ready for a nap. And you're battling to get them down for a nap. And if they do take a nap, it's probably going to either be super short, or they're going to, if you manage to resettle them somehow, if you manage to keep them going, you're then, like I said, probably going to have issues at nighttime because you've taken the sleep pressure either too far down, or they've just taken more than they need when they actually don't need as much sleep as other babies in the 24-hour period. So let me know in the comments if that makes sense. You just can't, there's no one size fits all. We really have so much variation with this, and that includes babies. So now, as I said at the start, I don't want to throw out, what's that saying? I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater or something like that. Anyway, you know, some people do find wake windows helpful. And to be honest, those babies and mums are probably the ones where those babies are pretty much dead on average sleep needs. And so the wake windows actually work out quite well for them. And that's great. I'm not saying, you know, definitely don't do it. The other thing is that some babies are really hard to read, and it's really hard to read their cues. And so often mums will say, well, I do kind of follow wake windows. I do kind of watch the clock because actually otherwise I just don't even know when to put them down. And that's fair enough. And the answer to that really is experimentation. It's all an experiment. And it's okay to experiment and find what works for your baby as an individual. So if your baby's not one to show many cues, you can experiment here. And it really is about getting away from the idea that there's some sort of one size fits all approach here. We really have to work out, first step, what are your baby's sleep needs? And then, you know, how can we look at what they need to optimize their sleep pressure as one of the sleep regulators. But that's one aspect of it. And one aspect of what I do with my clients is really, let's work out how to optimize the sleep pressure for your little ones as an individual. So rather than using set wake windows, you know, schedules, it's about having a framework to work out what to do and how to optimize it all so that you get the best sleep that you can and you get away from some of these challenges like the bedtime resistance, like the frequent waking, and those kind of things that pop up, and false starts as well, which are often related to sleep pressure. So I guess that's really what I wanted to cover today about wake windows. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions about that, if it makes sense. What your thoughts are. I would love to know. Really, it is about optimizing these sleep regulators, like I said. And the other thing is that if your little one doesn't have a lot of sleep challenges, you know, if sleep's normal, if you're not seeing excessive night waking. So I define, or from what we can gather from research around feeding, particularly, that anything more often than 2 hourly waking is a bit of a red flag and probably is considered excessive. 2 hourly wakes can be normal, especially for a breastfed baby. So excessive waking would be more than 2 hourly wake ups. And if your baby is not waking excessively, if you're not having any challenges, then really the research actually shows, there's a really good study on this, that cued care is your best option. So following your baby's cues, because they will take the sleep they need then, and you don't need to worry about these wake windows and, you know, tracking everything on apps and getting all stressed out about it. You don't need to do that. If everything's normal, cued care is absolutely your best bet. If your baby's difficult to read their cues, definitely some experimentation can come into it. But if you're experiencing sleep challenges, I would avoid wake windows. So if you need some help, if you need help to chat about what's going on with your little one, do head to my website. I popped in the link. I do offer a free call. So we can chat about what's going on for you, what's working, what's not working, if you'd be a good fit for my program, where the mums that I work with, we use this other framework to really get everything going. They learn all about this stuff around normal baby sleep and how to address sleep challenges, and we go from there. Cool. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.